So today I'm going to be answering the 10 most philosophically challenging questions and seeing if I can answer them in 5 minutes in a cohesive or coherent way. And then in, I want to say, a year's time, I'm going to come back and answer these same 10 questions and see if my views have changed, if I've grown, that type of thing. Just compare them. First, let's find what questions we're going to be answering. Okay, I haven't found a good site for these questions, but I thought it was funny. I found one that says 30 plus philosophical questions, abstract, deep, unanswerable by man-telligence. Which I think that is hilarious. There's nothing that's like done by universities. Alright, we're going to go with 5 great unsolved philosophical questions from the OUP blog. This is the most credible thing that I've found so far. Alright, so how this is going to work is I'm going to write a little script for each question. I have 5 minutes to answer each question, and I'm going to answer it using a script. I'm just going to go into a Google Doc and type out my thoughts, try to organize them a little bit rather than just ramble to the camera, and then I'll read it to the camera and see how much progress we make. Do we have free will? Let's find out. All right. 5 minutes is up. This is what I have so far. This is, do we have free will? Free will is the ability to do anything we want. Obviously, there are no obstacles in place that prevent us from doing anything we want. There are also laws, but those don't actually prevent us from doing anything. They just motivate us not to by adding consequences to our actions. Free will is also limited by our existence in this reality. We cannot fly at will. We will always be a group of cells acting under the influence of physical law. My main argument, though, is that our identity makes up our decisions, and our identity is made up of things that we have no control over, such as our memories and genetics. That's all I have. So I said no, and used determinism as a main focal point. I'm very curious how my thoughts on that will change, and I have a feeling that future me won't react to this one super well. Or maybe he will. Can we know anything starting now? Okay, so I'm not as proud of this one, but here it is. Can we know anything at all? We know lots of things, but none of them are the truth. When asking what we can know, one must also ask, is knowing something untrue still knowing something? If I know for a fact that I'm going to win the lottery based on no evidence, then do I know it? If not, then how is the sky blue? Do you know for a fact that the sky is blue? How do you know that? Is it blue, or is it light at a certain wavelength so that you perceive it as blue, and therefore as the truth? Even though it is entirely up to your species and genetics whether you see that color or not. I think there's an argument somewhere in here, especially with the first line, we know lots of things, but none of them are the truth. That was kind of my answer. I'm really curious how future me is going to handle these questions. I know that the most likely outcome is just going to be I'm even more confused now because I see multiple pathways that I can go down to explain this question. On to number 3. Who is this person whom I call I? What do we mean when we say I? Who is that? Who's me? Who is me? That's what it's asking. This is going to give me an identity crisis if I didn't already have one. Alright, 5 minutes starting now. I was really enthralled by this one. I greatly enjoy the study of like identity and what makes us us, that type of thing. I've always been very fascinated by. So I guess psychology, that sort of branch of psychology. Almost all of the art I love, all of the art that I create is about identity in its core. And I'm pretty sure it's impossible to make something that isn't about you, which is really interesting. But anyway, who am I? This is how I answered that question in 5 minutes. I'd like to start by eliminating what I am not. I am not my opinions. I am not my beliefs. I am not a demographic. I am not a perfect representative of any group. Because I am not a statistic, I am simply who I am, and who I am doesn't really matter. Finding out who you are doesn't matter. Because if you pay too much attention to who you are, then you aren't going to be a person. You're going to be a statistic. Too focused on which things to shove into your identity than to actually have one. Too focused on which things to shove into your identity to actually have one. That one kind of had like a little bit of a poetic element. It was a little bit chummy. It's like the ending of an indie movie, and they needed to put a lesson in there just to fool the audience into thinking it was a metaphor, but it was really just a boring slice of life bullshit movie. Yeah, anyway, that was the vibe that I got from that answer. But I'm still really curious about how I'm going to answer these in the future. I keep saying that after every question, but it's just a really interesting concept to see how will my identity change represented by these questions. So that question is going to be a big one, I think. It is going to be a big shift in that. What is death? Is going to be our next question. All right, and here we go. All right. That one was hard not to keep writing. I keep looking at myself in the camera and trying to have good posture. It was not philosophical, it was more just kind of proving that I'm an atheist. Alright, what is death? Death is non-existence, whether you believe in an afterlife or not. We can agree that the term existence refers to existing in this plane of reality. Before I existed in this reality, I had not been born yet. Do you remember what that is like? There are no memories. It's just nothing. So how could we possibly assume that it'll be different after we die? Death doesn't exist, and soon neither will we. It has nothing to do with how you feel about it. It's not nihilism either. It's just infinite nothingness on both sides of our lives' timeline. We're nothing, then we're something for a brief moment, then we're nothing again, forever. And I think what's interesting about this is that, like, before you're born, the nothingness will end, and you'll be something no matter what, if you haven't been born yet. That's implying that people who don't exist. So that's no good. Never mind. Okay, but let's say people who are dead are conscious. Then that means that everyone who's not alive yet knows that they're going to be born at some point, and then their memories are erased. Then you exist, and then you know at some point you're going to die soon because you're aging fast, and then you die. And then you keep your memories. I don't know why people think you'd keep your memories from this life in the afterlife if we didn't keep them going into it. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, let's say you keep your memories after you die. You don't exist, but you're conscious, and it's going to be nothing forever. But before you're born, it's nothing forever, but you also know that you're going to be something soon. I don't know. I'm just very fascinated by this. What would it be like to actually be conscious during the nothing? That is Terrifying, actually. All right. 5. What would global justice look like? Here we go. Okay, I wrote for an extra 15 seconds, but I said what I needed to say. Alright, wow. These are kind of getting longer and longer, which means I think I'm getting better at condensing my thoughts, lining up what I'm thinking with what I'm putting on the page. My hair is really weird right now. What would global justice look like? Let's say that justice is everyone getting what they deserve. If you're a good person, you get what you need. If you're a bad person, you are punished. It is my personal belief that no human punishment can exist without malice. Humans are simply unable to be objective. So the people punishing the various offenders will then become malicious, and therefore a bad person. Then they will need to be punished, and the cycle continues. So there can be no working system while evil people still exist. Evil humans will always exist, so a global justice system is impossible. It is a utopian thought that will inevitably be crushed under its own weight. Now, this is a stance, but it's not one that I believe really at all. I think that it is a thought that is very, very much worth entertaining, but it isn't something that we should believe wholeheartedly. It's implying that education won't get better. And education, it will get better, for sure. I think if I were to be a little bit truer to what I believed with this, I would have said that this isn't possible. If I would say this if I have more time, but this is the best I could do under the circumstances. We cannot create this justice system, this global justice system, and it will not work unless we start with education first. And not just education of the world and math and shit like that. So not just that, also morals. I think morals should be much more deeply ingrained in children from a young age. Not by any system, because all systems will also eventually destroy themselves through corruption. But that's also maybe not true. This is the problem with philosophy. Let me think. This is an hour-long video right now. Or it's 50 minutes. It's going to be a lot of editing. We should simply be taught to be a good and nice person from the time that we are born, by good and nice people. Once people have been educated and the average populace is more moral and more well educated, they know things, they can understand risk and reward and statistics and things like that. I don't think I'm going to come up with a perfect system at 17 for a YouTube video. But then again,
oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Just because we're not going to make the perfect system doesn't mean we shouldn't try. I could be contributing to something. The fact that I'm even thinking about it is contributing, because that means that others are thinking about it. And those people will probably have more power than a teenager. Or maybe they won't. I don't know. This is one of my first philosophy videos. And then I have an upcoming video about movies. I'm going to be watching the highest rated movie from every language. So that's going to take some time. And I haven't even started yet. But I have all the movies in a list. But I have to watch all of them now. So we'll see. It's going to be rough. I have 50 movies on there. I think I've watched like 4. It's going to be intense. In a year, I'm going to answer these same 5 questions again in the same amount of time, 5 minutes, and then I'm going to look at this document and compare the 2 answers, and then we'll see what has changed and what the deal is. Yeah, this was a really fun video, and it did not feel like an hour. This went by really fast, and I could practice my writing, I could practice my philosophical thought. It was just a great idea. I really enjoyed this type of video, and I'll probably be doing more stuff like this, but I do say that like at the end of every video, and then it just never happens.